Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Now, I get asked quite frequently, how much do I actually practice? Like, how much time do I put in before every race? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you. Now, it's the start of a brand new week on iRacing, which means brand new car track combos. And I've not been on yet. I've never turned a wheel. And I'm going to pick 5 different series to jump into and practice. And as always, when I jump into a practice session, I always look at the times before I jump in, see roughly where I need to be, and try and get to that level. Now, on my overlays, on the bottom right in the relative box, you can see the actual current time. So you'll be able to see exactly how much time I'm spending on track in each one of these combos. But before we jump on track, it's time to pay some bills and welcome today's video sponsor, PC Specialist. Now, I've said it about a million times, but I run a PC Specialist computer, and I've done so for about 18 months. I run all my driving simulators on there, it captures all the gameplay, and I do all the editing. I'm not exaggerating when I say that computer is the beating heart of this YouTube channel. And I do all that and still run all my driving simulators at high frame rates with all the bells and whistles turned on. So if you want to take your sim racing or content creation to the next level, please check out the link to PC Specialist down below in the video description. Use the code DAVE40 for £40 off your order. So a huge thank you once again to PC Specialist for continuing to support the channel and sponsoring this video. Right, on with the video then. 5 different car track combos. How long will it take me to get up to race pace in each one? Well, let's get on track and find out. So first up, we've got the Global Mazda at Okayama.
All clear on pit exit.
Now, anybody that's got iRacing knows the Mazda and Okayama. We've all done countless laps here, so I know my way around. I know the track, I know the car, so it's all about just trying to get up to pace. Now, if you look at the time in the bottom right, 7:59, that's when I first hit the track. And we're going to see how long it takes me to get up to speed, because there's not that many learning points for me with this combo. But looking at previous results, I think I need to be in the low 44s, high 43s to be competitive in the top split. So here we are, coming to the end of our first flying lap. If you look at the time in the bottom right of the relative, it's 8:02, so 3 minutes since we started the session. On our first flying lap, we crossed the line and we got a 1 minute 44.814,
Quickest overall.
which is all right, but I knew I could go a bit quicker. So we'll skip forward to our last lap of the session. Timer in the bottom right, 8:06, and this is the last lap we're going to do. But we do get a packet loss warning in the top of the screen here, you'll see it, and that invalidates the lap. But if you look at the delta box just next to my webcam, we crossed the line with a 143.928, which I'm happy that that's reasonably competitive. So next up, we have got the Toyota GR86 at Interlagos. Again, it's a car that I'm quite familiar with. Interlagos is a track that I'm familiar with, but I don't think I've ever driven the GR86 at Interlagos, so I've no idea how I'm going to fare. But looking at previous results, to be competitive in the top split, I would imagine you would have to be high 48s, low 49s. So, end of the first flying lap, and we managed a 1 minute 49.646.
Quickest overall.
Not the best lap, and I knew there was a lot more time left on the table. So coming up to our last flying lap, we did improve on our previous time. We've got a 149.380, and we've been on track for 8 minutes. And we crossed the line on our last lap with a 1 minute 49.125. I could definitely go quicker, but I would be happy entering a race being able to lap low 49s. Now, on to a more challenging combo, the Mercedes AMG GT4 at Barber Motorsports Park, and I was taught a valuable lesson right away. The tyres are absolutely lethal. But we went back out there, lesson learned, let's not make that same mistake again, which we didn't.
Your tyres are cold, watch out.
But Jim's just said the tyres are cold, and I didn't listen to him, so we nearly made the same mistake again. So lesson learned, The tyres are challenging when they're cold. But you've got to make mistakes to learn from them. Here's a classic example. I braked too late going into this left-hander. So again, even on the outlap, I've learned two valuable lessons. The tyres are lethal when they're cold, and I need to brake much earlier for that left. Now you can see the timer in the bottom right, 8:23. It's probably going to take a little bit more time to get up to speed. And looking at previous results, top split times to be competitive, I would imagine is going to be anywhere from a high 28 to mid 29. So coming up to the end of our first proper flying lap, we did put a lap in a 1:32, but that was with a huge moment. So across the line, first proper flying lap, we managed a 1 minute 29.839. Still quite a bit of work to do. So approaching the line on our last flying lap of the session, we did go quicker before, a 1:29.558, and this time we crossed the line in a 1:29.549, and that was the last lap that we did in this session. There's definitely more time on the table, maybe 2 or 3 tenths, but again I would be happy entering a top split race, being able to lap mid 29s. Right, another really challenging combo, the TCRs at Road Scorgan. Now, time in the bottom right, 8:38, and this is completely different from the 3 cars that I'd driven previously, the Mazda, the GR86 and the Mercedes, because this is obviously front wheel drive, a completely different driving style. And looking at previous lap times, you've got to be ideally in the 27s, 28s to be competitive. But again, a really important lesson here going into this right-hander, this second part of this double right. The rear end gets really, really light, so you've got to manage that. So coming to the end of our first flying lap, and I was really struggling. I thought there's no way I'm going to get in the 27s, and we crossed the line with a 1:29.159, so we're a good 1.5 seconds off where we need to be. But I was confident that the time was there, I just needed to figure it out. So this is the last flying lap of the session. We had gone quicker, we'd done a 1:28.665, and this was much better obviously, and we crossed the line with a 1:27.889. But there's still time there, but I'd be happy entering a race with that time. Now, on to the type of car which I really struggle with.
It exits clear.
Formula cars, or any car for that matter, with high levels of downforce. Now, if you follow the channel, you'll know that I don't really drive downforce cars that often. I prefer tin-top cars and cars with mechanical grip, but with downforce cars, you've got to trust the downforce. You've got to be quite experienced to get the most out of them. Now, if you look at the time in the bottom right, 8:53, and I would imagine it's going to take me a little bit longer to get up to speed in this car. Now, I've looked at previous results, and in the dry around here, you're probably looking at high 29s, low 30s to be reasonably competitive in the top split. Now, practice for me is all about learning what works and probably more importantly, what doesn't. So here we are going down to our first flying lap, approaching turn number 1, and for some reason I think that I need to maybe brake a little bit and lift off the gas, which of course causes the car to do a full 360 no scope. First lesson learned. So approaching the end of our first flying lap, we did a 1:35.5 with the 360 no scope, and we crossed the line on our first proper flying lap with a 1:31.639, but we've kind of sorted out turn 1, or so I thought. The way I was doing it there isn't the way I was doing it at the end of the session. So we've done a few laps, and this is the end of our final lap of the session. We had gone quicker, a 1:30.325, and this time we crossed the line and we dipped into the 1:29s. We did a 1:29.965. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, practice is all about exploring what works and what doesn't. Now, I'm going to show you 2 examples where I found lap time here, and you've got to experiment and you've got to potentially crash to find out what actually works. So turn 1, start the session. This is what I was doing.
Your quickest overall.
Turn 1, last lap of the session. This is what I was doing. So as you can see, completely different, and trusting the downforce. Same kind of example, first flying lap, last flying lap. So there we go, 5 different combos, and it didn't actually take me that long to get up to speed in any of them. The Super Formula Light, as expected, was the longest. But as I said during the video, there's nothing wrong with overdriving in practice, because you've got to overdrive to know where the limits are. If you're constantly driving under the limit, then you're potentially leaving time on the table. Now, although it didn't take me long to get up to speed, you've got to remember that I'm in here every day, Monday to Friday. It's my job now, so like any job, the more you do it, the better you get. But there's levels, isn't there? I can be semi-competitive in the top split, but then there's the next level. And I don't think I would ever get to that. So hopefully that answers a question which has been asked many, many times. So if you did like this video, please remember, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more, please consider subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching. Have a great week. See you later. Cheers.